Alright, so in this video I would like to give you some basic tips for how to give a good short presentation. The particular purpose for me is I do online courses, and we generally close those courses with public live group seminars. So it's like a panel discussion and everyone is invited to give a short talk. But I've noticed that not everyone knows how to do that, and I've noticed certain pitfalls that are quite common. So that's the immediate motivation for this video, but I actually think these are pretty general principles that could be useful to anyone who's ever asked to give some kind of short talk. And short talks, I think, are increasingly common. I know that in academic conferences, the time allotment per person seems to be decreasing. It's increasingly common in tech circles or business circles to give what are called lightning talks, which again are just a very short format. And I think there are many reasons why short is actually better. Well, first of all, it forces you to be more concise and to really know that you're going into the talk with at least one thing that is particularly valuable and compelling that you can communicate concisely. But for the audience, it's really great because what it means is you can get more people in a panel, and you can actually increase the amount of insights and knowledge and information that is shared from any particular panel by forcing a larger number of people to just be more concise and be more efficient. So the audience, it's more lively, it's more interesting, there's more variety, and there's just ultimately more value out of the series of presentations. So I've given lots of talks in my time, conference talks, academic lectures. I've given many talks at pretty much all different time frames. So I think I have some insights to share for people. So the first tip that I would give to people is, and this is increasingly important to the degree that the talk is short, like if it's a 5-minute talk, this is really crucial, but it applies to pretty much all time scales, is you really want to have one main point, and that's it. And you want to know in advance what that point is. It should be crystal clear in your own mind, and it should be pretty simple to communicate and to understand. And of course, you can impress people with some details and some flourishes in how you unpack that one simple idea, but the basic gist of the talk should be reducible to one clear statement or sentence that you want people to walk away from the talk remembering. Something that my PhD supervisor taught me, which has stuck with me, is that this pretty much holds true through all media, including scholarly journal articles, which are sometimes 8,000 words long. Each article, my advisor taught me, should really just have one main point. And the reason is because people will only remember one main point. If your article has 3 amazing points, people are really only going to remember one. They're only going to cite you for one. Generally, that's how things work. But typically, if you're not familiar with giving presentations, if that's not something you're experienced with, then it's not unlikely that trying to pack in multiple points is going to lead you to mess up some of them. And so at least a couple of them, if you try to do a bunch of them, are not really going to get through. You're going to kind of not be super clear, or you're going to confuse people. And so the more ideas you try to pack into a talk, the greater the possibility of some kind of error or confusion or misunderstanding. And that can come off badly. So if you just have one main point that you know it's your top priority to get across, and you know in advance it makes perfect sense, just have that and just try to focus on that. So you can have subpoints, and that's what the rest of the talk should be, is mostly just fleshing out the one main point, giving some details, giving some evidence, putting some meat on the bones, if you will. But everything goes back to that one main point, all right? So that's, I think, probably the most important tip in all of this. The second thing that I want to say is, and this pretty much follows on the first one, it's very related, is a little trick that I learned from a debate coach. I debated through high school and university. And I remember one of our coaches at one point told me this phrase, which has stuck with me. He said, "Tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them what you told them." So basically, you want to leverage a certain amount of repetition. And this complements nicely the idea of having one main point, because you really want them to walk away remembering that one main point. So if you have a one clear point, then you should generally start the talk off with that one clear point. You should then flesh it out where you're actually explaining that one main point, And then when you're done, you should remind them of that one main point. And you might think that sounds boring or repetitive, but the fact is, people, when they're listening to things, they kind of go in and out of consciousness, right? Like if you've ever been to a conference, or even think about like when you listen to podcasts or something like this, you're only hearing bits of it. You're only going to remember bits of it. So if you have one good, clear point, don't be shy. Don't be afraid to repeat it a few times. But it'll probably be a little bit different each time. You'll say it a little bit different each time. So I'm not saying you should necessarily repeat verbatim some kind of one sentence statement, but you should know the one main point, and you should say it a few times, at least once at the beginning, then explain it, and then once at the end, because that's really what you want people to take from the talk, all right? It also helps as a kind of hedge against anything confusing you might say. So if certain parts of the talk are a little unclear, or you go off on a tangent or whatever, it's not the end of the world if you have that one main point that you kind of sandwich the talk in it. You say it at the beginning and you say it at the end, all right? So people won't remember the bad parts where you're unclear if you have that one main point and you make it very clear through a little bit of repetition. The next tip is that time is going to go by faster than you think, okay? 5 minutes is almost no time at all. It's super quick. As soon as you get into the groove of explaining something, before you know it, you're going to be asked to stop, or you're going to get that 1 minute warning, or however the conference organizer does it. And you are probably going to be surprised. You're going to be like, wow, I thought 5 minutes was more than that. So just keep that in mind. Just prepare for that. It's going to go by faster than you think. And so this is another reason why you should not try to pack in too many points or too many ideas. And that's why it's really good to have one main point. Okay, so if you do run out of time, maybe you didn't get the opportunity to say a bunch of the interesting subpoints that you wanted to expand on, it's not the end of the world, because you have that one main point you're trying to get across, all right? So just prepare for time to go quick. You really cannot accomplish that much in 5 minutes, even 15 minutes, you just can't accomplish that much. So prepare for that, all right? Don't think to yourself, I'm gonna pack in all of this interesting stuff. I think that's one of the common pitfalls I see, is people will write an abstract, or they'll kind of describe what they're gonna talk about, and it's actually got packed into it a whole bunch of different threads, and they think that the forcing function of the talk, and when they're invited to speak, it's just going to force them to kind of concentrate all of their different ideas into one impressive rant or lecture, and it often doesn't work like that. You're often going to find yourself kind of, oh wow, I've only even been able to talk about the one or two subpoints I started with. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Be modest about how much you can really accomplish in 5 minutes. If you tell yourself you're gonna say a bunch of really interesting different things, you're probably not. Okay, so just tone that down a bit, be realistic, be modest, and again, focus on the one main point and just a couple subpoints depending on how much time you have. All right, the other bit I want to talk about here is the question of whether or not you should improv or script your talk. And my tip here is that I think this depends completely on your personal preferences and whatever makes you most comfortable. I've seen perfectly fine talks on both ends of the spectrum. Completely improvised, no prep whatsoever, no notes whatsoever. Some people can do that perfectly fine. It's lively, it's interesting, and they get the point across quite well. Some people I've seen will read a script verbatim. And either one, it can work. It really is a matter of, I think, what makes you most comfortable, and pretty much what makes you feel most confident that you're going to get your point across in a way that's easy to understand and clear, and that will hold the interest of the people listening or watching. If you're really nervous and you do not trust your ability to improv, there's no shame whatsoever in literally scripting out the talk you're going to give and then reading it off paper. It's not ideal. It's definitely can be a little bit boring, and it's certainly not, particularly impressive. You're not going to come off as a charismatic, genius person who just kind of riffs super intelligent ideas off the cuff. But that's okay. You don't need to be that. Respecting the audience's attention and time and kind of guaranteeing that you're going to get a clear point across is more important than anything, all right? And I think there is a type of person who sometimes wants to think of themselves as a kind of genius orator who can just kind of improv and say really interesting, valuable things off the cuff. And don't be, if you can do that, that's fine. But that's not necessarily a better type of speaker or thinker. It's really not. The best speaker is one who can simply get a valuable point across to an audience in a way that they can understand, right? And so if that means scripting it out and reading it, if that makes you more comfortable, if that's what gives you the most peace of mind, you should do that if you're not confident in your ability to improv. There's no shame in it. I've seen plenty of super intelligent and really cool thinkers and academics and different types of people pretty much read a paper for even long periods of time, which can be quite boring or dry, but they had real content and they were confident in the content and they weren't necessarily trying to leverage some kind of charismatic speaking quality. All right. So on the other hand, if you have a kind of high energy personality and you're comfortable speaking and thinking on the fly, then you should leverage that because it is more lively for sure, and it can be fun to watch and to listen to. So personally, what I do is a kind of combination method. I like to have one main point written out verbatim, like a one sentence kind of statement. So I go into it knowing for sure I have a valuable thing to say and that I want to make sure that I get across. And then what I'll do is I'll usually do a couple subpoints, maybe 2 or 3 subpoints written out in a clear kind of statement, like a clear sentence that I can actually read verbatim. And then from those sentences that I read verbatim, I will improv between them. Okay, so it's a combination method that I think can be the best of both worlds. But for you all, you should do with whatever makes you feel most confident and relaxed and comfortable knowing that you're going to deliver a sensible talk that's valuable for the audience. The final tip that I want to give is that when you're giving a short talk, between 5 and 15 minutes, you're usually just giving a signpost or a set of signposts to something bigger and more valuable elsewhere. Okay, because you just can't do that much in 5 or 15 minutes, okay? So you're not going to show the audience in detail some amazing argument or discovery in impressive, profound detail. You're just not. What you're really doing is you're just saying, here's the gist. If you're interested in it, go check out X, Y, or Z, or go do X, Y, or Z. Okay, so you just want to basically paint a picture in the audience's mind that's super clear and simple, that makes them say, oh, okay, I get where they're going with that. I get what he or she is doing with that. I get the basic idea. And then they might feel interested in what you're doing, and then they can go check it out elsewhere or get involved elsewhere. So I'll give you some examples of what I mean. It might be if you have a piece of writing, maybe you did a long article or you did a serious, thoughtful blog post, or maybe you wrote a book or something like that. If you're asked to give a 5-minute talk on that idea, you can tell people about that book or that article. And if they're interested in, they can go check that out, or they can go find your website, or they can follow you on Twitter or whatever. And you should say that. That's perfectly fine to say. All you're doing is giving the most high-level signposts for what that larger content is all about. So you just want to give the main ideas in a way that's super easy for them to be like, oh, okay, I can imagine that. I can picture that. And that way they know if they're interested in it or they're not. And if they're not, that's fine. But if they are, then they can go to the bigger thing. But the bigger thing might also just be like a future research agenda, right? You might just have a hypothesis. You might just have an idea, in which case you haven't worked out all the details. You don't know exactly what the larger product or end game is, but you can see it, right? And so the purpose of your short talk is to just sketch out the basic parameters. Again, you just want to create in the audience's mind that kind of aha moment, like, oh, I get where they're going. I get what they're trying to do or what they're trying to say. And if I'm interested in it, okay, I'll watch them work on that later. Or the elsewhere or the bigger thing could also be something that the audience might do, right? So you might be sketching something that's possible, like a research agenda or something like that, something that you think is there for people who want to explore it, in which case your talk is really just giving them some pointers on how the audience might go do something, like build a project or pursue a set of research questions or perhaps build an app or a tool or a business or something like that. You're just giving the basic variables really simply so that they can go do the thing or find the thing or develop the thing outside of the talk, okay? So keep that in mind. And this should take some pressure off, because the point is you don't have to do it all in your short talk. That's what I'm trying to get across. You just want to get the basic idea across intelligently and clearly so that the real work, the more valuable full thing, whatever that might be, can be done elsewhere at another time or place, okay? You just want to give them the basic idea so that they become interested in that, and then they want to either talk with you or do it themselves or look into it in the future. All right, so that's the final tip here, is just to think of your talk as a very short signpost pointing to something else, and be clear about what that something else is. You can, it's not a cop-out to say, I'm still working on this, I want to figure this out in advance. And you can even finish off with some questions or some pointers on what the next steps might be. All right, so I think if you take all of those points on board, you're much more likely to be able to deliver a short talk that is valuable and interesting for the audience, and will avoid, I think, some of the most common pitfalls that I see.